It's like he's thought of absolutely everything. He'd sent me such detailed instructions that I'm not afraid of forgetting what he wants me to do. He'd instructed me to arrive at his hotel in New York by 9 a.m., which confused me a little since his plane wasn't due to arrive until much later that day. However, I did as he instructed and arrived at the hotel by the time he demanded. I pulled up to the front and the valet told me that he'd park my car. So I proceeded on into the lobby. Once inside, the concierge guided me over to the registration desk and a nice young man smiled warmly at me. I tried to smile back, but perhaps my nervousness showed through. The receptionist seemed to know all about my arrival and immediately signaled the bellhop to attend to my bags. Then he was to show me to our suite. As he opened the door of the suite and I entered, I was overwhelmed by the beauty of the room. There were flowers arranged everywhere, some fruit and a bottle of champagne cooling on the table with just 2 long glasses. The bellhop showed me around the rooms, and when I offered him a tip for dealing with my bags, his response was simple: "Everything has all been taken care of, Mississippi." This was like a dream and I truly felt like a princess awaiting her prince. As I soaked up this wonderful moment, the phone rang. I walked over to it over the plush carpets. I picked up the phone and expected it to be him. I was disappointed that it wasn't when I heard an American accent. The man at the other end of the line said, "Ms. Blair, your limousine is waiting for you outside whenever you're ready." Limousine? What limousine? I asked, wondering what he meant. "Oh, the limousine that's been ordered for your exclusive use today." "But where am I to go?" I bleated. "The driver has your itinerary in the limousine," he replied. "Have a nice day and thank you for staying with us." So I picked up my purse, my coat, and I shrugged as I looked at myself in the mirror. I touched up my makeup and smiled at my womanly reflection. I headed out of the room back the way I'd just come, with my heels again clicking on the hard floor of the lobby. The limousine driver met me in the lobby and charmingly guided me into the back of his white limousine with mysterious blacked-out windows. The first stop was a designer boutique that appeared to cater to a very exclusive clientele. It was like I was already expected, because immediately Chantal, the boutique manager, met me at the entrance and I was escorted me inside. "My name's Chantal," she announced, shaking my hand. "What happens now?" I asked her, unsure. "Our client has given us carte blanche to help you choose a dress from our latest collection for this evening," she said with a charming French accent. "What am I supposed to do?" I asked, still unsure. "Nothing, Ms. Blair, just enjoy the experience." "Everything has been taken care of," she said. "Taken care of?" I queried. "Yes, we have your new dress in the fitting room, please accompany me," she said. "Don't I get to pick my own dress?" "No, our client has already selected the dress from our latest range. It's a fetching black elegant evening dress with all of the accompaniments." Her words just took my breath away. I wondered why he wouldn't let me decide, but then it was also nice to know that he knew what he wanted for me. As she led me into the opulent fitting room, I saw the most beautiful dress hanging on the rail. "We can close this door and no one can enter, Ms. Blair," she said to reassure me as she locked it behind us. "You may like to undress so we can check the fitting." "Undress here?" "Yes," she said. "You'll be quite safe." "Well then, please call me Michelle. Miss Blair is way too formal." So within a few minutes I was standing there in nothing but my stay-up stockings, high-cut lace panties and a matching bra. As I stood and she placed a silk robe around my shoulders, I felt glad that I chose to wear my best matching lingerie. "Before we fit the dress, there are some other undergarments that must be worn," she said, moving toward me with an elegant violet box. She opened it up and undid some tissue paper to reveal a jet black satin corset with 3 suspenders on each side. "I have to wear that." I gulped as she held it up to show me the detailed embroidery on the garment. "Yes, I'm glad to say it's very necessary," Chantal replied. If you'll remove your bra please, we'll begin the fitting. I expertly unhooked my bra and let it fall and was delighted to feel my enhanced breasts bounce in their unsupported state. Raise your arms above your head, she commanded. I duly complied and she expertly wrapped the corset around my rib cage and then went to the back to slowly tighten the laces. For someone who has never worn a corset, it was an interesting experience as the laces began to tighten and then tighten again. After a short struggle, a tape was wrapped my waist and she read it as 25 inches. Another little more to go, my dear. How much? I asked, already struggling for breath. Not much more, she said, tugging again. She moved on down my back, tightening the laces harder and harder. Until finally I was happy when she started to tie them off. There now, that's 24 inches. The corset made my ample breasts seem bigger, although I secretly wished them still larger. My hips seemed to stand out too. When that was done, she quickly attached the garter straps to my stay-up stocking tops. 3 on each side before finally adjusting them so the stockings were pulled tighter up my legs than before. Now shoes, she said. Our client expressed the need for you to wear something refined and elegant, and we have just the right pair of shoes for you. She took out a pair of shoes from a box and I could see that the heels were tall. Taller than I normally wore. I stood as she fitted them onto my feet. They were really comfortable to wear despite the 3-inch elegant spike heel. I smiled inwardly to myself. Trust him to get these shoes for me. You carry your height very well, Michelle, she said as I felt slightly unsteady on the unfamiliar shoes. Thank you, I replied, unsure what else to say. Now the dress, she said, inviting me to walk over to the rail where it was hanging. But there is an underskirt that goes on first. She helped me put it on and I could see that it was long and tight around my thighs with a slit from the knees down past my calf muscles. Finally, I slipped the dress over my head and it slid down, catching slightly on my hips. With a little wiggle, it completed its fall. Chantel took some pins and started to tighten the fit of the dress even more. We need to take in some material in the waist just a little, and the neckline needs to be a little lower, but otherwise it fits fine, she said, smiling. We'll make the alterations and bring the dress over later this afternoon. Then I was led to a full-length mirror and saw the way my figure had been altered by the corset. No longer did I have an almost straight torso, but a real hourglass figure that I'd always wanted. Michelle, you have such long legs to die for, she said, helping me to step out of the dress. They're my best feature, I replied. It shouldn't take very long to alter the dress, she said, hanging it back up on the rail. Do you know where to deliver? Oh yes, we even know your room number, she said, making me wonder what other plans he had for me, if he'd planned this so well. Back into my own clothes, Chantel spoke. Michelle, you must be a very loved woman, and with that lovely new dress you'll be able to make that someone special very happy tonight. I was in a daze as I walked back to the limousine. Without giving an order, we pulled away from the boutique, and within 5 minutes the driver informed me of my next stop. At this point, I'd given up on attempting to guess what else he'd planned for my day. We turned onto Broadway, then pulled alongside the sidewalk. I was shocked as I looked out of the window and slowly read the letters across the front of the building. I can't be going inside there, surely not. However, I was familiar with the words the letters were forming in my numb brain, Elisabetharden. This just has to be the most famous beauty salon in New York, probably even the world. The door of the limousine opened and I could barely speak as I was escorted across the sidewalk through the door. Ah yes, Ms. Blair, we were expecting you, said the receptionist. Your stylist today is Marcel, and you'll have your nails attended to by Patricia. Please come this way. I was whisked away to the shampoo area, and I had a gown placed around me. Then my head was gently leant back into the sink so they could wash my long natural blonde hair. The warm water and the skillful fingers of the assistants soothed my initial nervousness, and it made me feel quite relaxed. I was given a glass of wine and then the transformation began. Why can't I see? I asked. You're not supposed to see, he said, laughing. It spoils the surprise, silly. So I had a little more wine. You won't cut my hair shorter, will you? No, that's the last thing our client wants, he replied. Just relax and trust me. So that's what I did. I had another glass of wine and then another as he worked, so I wasn't totally aware of what was being done to me. I knew my hair had been styled, trimmed, and colored. At one point under the dryer I must have dozed off, and I remember waking up to find that I sported the longest nails on my hands I'd ever seen. They were done in a French polish style with long white tips. In the white area there was a gold flower inserted, and it had been sealed with several layers of acrylic lacquer. I must have squealed, and Patricia asked me if I was okay, and I replied, "What have you done?" These nails must be 2 inches long, and they are definitely false. I was just following instructions. Don't you like them? Patricia asked worriedly. I'm not sure, they just seem a little impractical to me, I replied. Yes, at that length they'll take some getting used to, but just imagine the effect they'll have on your man when he sees them. I just followed my instructions, and I just assumed that it was your decision, she said, unsure of my motives. I lifted my hand closer to my face and saw how expertly they'd been done. I'd always wanted my nails done in a salon. Now here I was sitting in this bastion of femininity having that done. It was like a dream come true. Now all that remains is a makeover, and we will finish your hair, Marcel said, bringing me out of my reverie. A makeover? I asked. Yes, Jillian, our makeup artiste, will do your face now, and then I'll uncover your hair. So I sat down in a chair, digging my nails into the palms of my hands as she worked to stop from feeling that this was a dream. She didn't talk as she worked. Eyeliner, lash curler, mascara, eyebrow pencil, lip liner, lipstick, foundation, blush, and many shades of eyeshadow were all applied with skill and speed. There now, Marcel, she's all yours again, she said. Thank you, I replied for him. Marcel undid my hair and brushed it out. I could feel it was softer and clear. At last he announced he was finished. When the girls and Marcel all stood around me and turned the chair towards the mirror, my jaw dropped. I looked over at the mirror and stared in amazement at the gorgeous woman staring back at me. This just could not be me. My hair was a lighter blonde and loaded with large bouncy curls. My makeup was done with such perfection, and my whole look was the most alluring that I could ever imagine. As I moved my hand in front of my face to guide back a few loose strands of hair, I noticed my fingers, and it was then it struck me how much magic had been worked on me. My painted lips opened wide in stunned amazement. Marcel asked me again if I was okay, and I said, yes, I think so. Darling, you really do look fabulous, he said. Your man is a lucky guy. If you think this is what he wanted, then I love it. I replied, getting up out of the salon chair. I went to the cash desk and tried to fumble for my purse, dreading at what such a transformation would cost. Maybe they would take my credit card. Ms. Blair, our account has been paid in full, she said without operating the register. Well, how much was the bill at least? I asked curiously. I'm not sure exactly, but I think our client must be a very wealthy man, she said sincerely. I walked towards the front door and headed back to the limousine. The driver stopped reading his newspaper and quickly opened the door for me. As I stepped inside the back door, I asked the driver, where to next? He responded, oh, it's back to the Hotel Mississippi. I felt relieved, since this whole day, although a delightful once-in-a-lifetime experience, had been such a whirlwind. People stared at me as I walked through the lobby with my new hairstyle and evening makeup on display. I picked up my room key and the woman on the desk smiled at me. Finally, I was back in our room and I noticed a small envelope addressed to me lying on the desk. I sliced it open with my nails, but fishing the letter out of the envelope proved more difficult. Already I was contemplating chopping off my nails, but I knew he wouldn't approve. My dearest Michelle, I hope that you've enjoyed the day that I planned out for you. By now you've been fitted for the dress, had your pretty face, hair and nails done to my specifications, and I hope you like the way you'll look from now on. We've talked about your fantasies often and I aim to make them all come true. After we meet and we discover that we're truly compatible, I hope you'll accompany me back to live in my estate in Britain. Love, Simon. Just as I finished reading the note, there was a soft knocking on the door. Thinking that it may be him, I rushed to open it but was surprised to see Chantal from the boutique and Gillian from the salon. Carrying in the dress in a special carrying bag that she hung on the top of a door, the manager spoke. We've done all of the changes to the dress and I'm here to help you get dressed for the evening. You must be dressed and down in the lobby by 6 p.m. sharp. Gillian suggested that I have a bath to freshen up while they prepared my clothes and her makeup kit. I readily agreed because the idea of a hot perfumed bubble bath sounded delicious. She helped me run the bath and added some special aromatic bath salts to the water while I just started to peel off my outer clothes. I'll repair your makeup when you're finished, she said when she went out with my clothes as I gingerly got into the hot steaming water. After the initial reaction to the hot water, I must have dozed off while in the bath salts acting like some anesthetic, or I was suffering from the lingering effects of the wine. I was brought back out of dreamland by a knock on the bathroom door and Gillian's soft voice. Michelle, are you all right? You've been in there for almost an hour. Oh, I'm sorry, I'll be out momentarily, I replied as I stepped out of the invitingly large tub. Donning a large towel robe, I walked into the bedroom to find both women ready to make me look my best for him. There's no need to be shy, said Chantal. You're going to love this night. Chantal walked toward me holding the most beautiful set of panties and bra that I'd ever seen. What do you think of these? She asked, showing me the designer underwear she'd chosen. These will go nicely with your dress. My jaw dropped as I felt the black soft satin material and my towel robe fell open to expose my naked body. Michelle, please lie on the bed and I'll take care of your pubic hair. My instructions were that you were to have all that removed. Ordinarily I would wax your bikini lines, but I will just shave instead, said Gillian, who pulled out a lady's wet razor and scented shaving foam. I lay on the bed as she worked, wondering if she would notice that I wasn't like other women. Thankfully she didn't, and expertly removed all traces of the sparse hair that was present. That operation made me wonder what kind of man would ask his date to undergo that. They're now smooth as a baby's rear, said Gillian, handing me my panties. I pulled them up to find they were a tight fit and showed off my mound through the tight material. They were high cut, and the rear part cut in and separated my rear cheeks. I was in a daze and didn't realize that I was standing there in sheer panties with nothing covering my breasts in front of these two women who'd been commissioned to help me get ready for my date with him. Chantal noticed my reaction and, turning me around, said, Michelle, we have an entire outfit for you to wear tonight, remember? She cupped my breasts with the bra and did up the clips in the back. She seated them perfectly and her hands wandered over my nipples, stimulating them slightly. Now your corset, she said, taking it from the bed. Sitting on the bed, waiting her turn to work on me, Gillian chipped in, oh, you're going to be a knockout with that on. I love wearing mine for my boyfriend. Sex is much more rewarding with one. Chantal laced me up like she did before, checking the waist size before going to the bag and picking out a new pair of sheer 30 denier stockings. She undid the packet at my request and handed them to me. It was then that I realized that I was likely to poke a nail through the thin material. Seeing my plight, they both helped roll them up my legs and attach them to the 3 tight suspenders that contrasted with my white rear. I don't know how I will survive the night in this corset, I can hardly breathe, I said. You will, don't worry, said Gillian. Besides, your man has asked that you wear one, he's come a long way to see you, so I think you should make the effort. Don't you? Chantal asked. Yes, if this was Simon's wish then it's okay with me, I replied, wondering how I would be able to stand the constriction for the rest of the night. The shoes were still black open-toed pumps that showed off my recently polished toes, but they were not the same pair I'd tried on earlier. They had ornate gold heels and were much higher than before, and both helped me put them on. I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror and I looked transformed. If I had been a guy, I would have betted me there and then. All I saw was an image of a very seductive woman. The underskirt was eased up over my hips before Chantel carefully removed the dress from the garment bag and helped me put it on. They had to coax the tight bodice over my hips and position it carefully so I could slip my arms into the sleeves. She zipped up the rear of the dress and did the button behind my neck. I was going to need help to get this dress off, and I imagined Simon doing that later that night. Looking in the mirror, I noticed that the dress was much more form-fitting than earlier. I moved slightly from side to side in the restrictive skirt and heels, admiring the fit and my newfound curves. They both took a step back and smiled. Jillian asked me to sit at the vanity where she repaired my makeup. "Do you want to try something really bold?" "Like what?" I asked. "How about some false eyelashes? I have a pair here that would thicken your lashes and have a dramatic effect on your eyes." "Why not?" I said, and she promptly removed all my eye makeup to begin again. She expertly glued the eyelashes to my eyelids, and I was able to experience the feeling of them as I fluttered my lashes just like a butterfly. Jillian showed why she is one of the top makeup artists in New York as she expertly redid my face. My eyelashes were longer but also thicker, and certainly they made my eyes more distinctive. I loved my new look and told her so. Jillian brushed my hair and pronounced to Chantel that I was ready for the final stage. I looked on bemused as she approached with a long gift-wrapped box. "This is for you," she said, handing me the box. I slipped my nail inside the wrapper and sliced it open and thought I could get used to opening presents. However, opening the catch on the box was much more problematical until Chantel told me to use the tip of my nail. The catch sprung open and inside was a matching bracelet, earrings, and pendant, all in small diamonds and dark rubies. There was a small note inside. "Wear these for me, my darling. Love, Simon." I picked up the earrings and realized that I would never be able to put these items on without a great deal of problems. Chantel realized this and helped me, first with the rather heavy earrings that replaced my gold hoops. The bracelet catch was a fiddle and it snapped shut perfectly around my thin wrist. Finally, the pendant hung perfectly between my pushed-up breasts. Tears formed in my eyes as the catch was done and it was allowed to hang down between the hollow of my breasts. "What's wrong?" asked Jillian, noticing my tear and obviously concerned for my makeup, handing me a tissue. "I'm just so happy," I said, hardly forming the words. "He's thought of everything. Look at how he's turned me into his own fairy princess." "Oh, you are a princess for this evening," said Chantel, handing me a clutch bag. "Every woman deserves to be treated as a princess once in her life. I get the feeling though that this won't be the last time." Jillian said, "Michelle, I've put your lipstick, compact, and a few other essentials in there for you. Since the night is cold, I have also brought a warm coat for you to wear," said Chantel, who once I was standing helped me to put it on. "The final touch are these gloves and you are ready to meet your man." My blonde hair contrasted with the black of the coat and the sparkle of the jewelry. Looking at myself, I couldn't believe the transformation. I had always been considered an attractive woman, but now I felt absolutely beautiful. As we walked to the elevator, I told them that I was very nervous and Jillian asked me why. "Oh, I've never met him in person, and this evening is our first date," I said as the doors opened. Chantel and Jillian looked at each other and, as if they had practiced, said, "Michelle, you're so lucky to have a man love you so much." I knew they were right, and as the elevator dropped down, I knew I was going to be in his arms at last. I also knew that a few hours later he was going to make love to me and finally make me the woman of our dreams. As the floor buttons illuminated, indicating the slow descent of the elevator, I felt like I was part of a dream. My mind began to wander, thinking back to specific times in my childhood and young adult years. I remember that as a child I created this wonderful fantasy of being a princess who got lost in the woods and was found by the prince. I recalled some of my first dates, wondering if they were to be the one for me. The abrupt stop of the elevator seemed to break me out of my flashback memories. As we stepped out, I smiled and thought to myself that I was about to live my childhood dream. Ever since I was little and felt I was different, I was finally to live my fantasy and be wined and dined looking like a beautiful woman I always knew I was. Could this man be the prince? Is he the one for me? I would soon find out.